Welcome to the J-Car Report podcast, brought to you by the esteemed Johnston County Association of Realtors. Whether you're an aspiring agent, seasoned professional, or simply intrigued by the dynamic world of real estate, this podcast is your ultimate gateway to the industry's latest trends, expert insights, and insider knowledge. Join us as we unlock the secrets to success, explore market dynamics, share inspiring stories, and provide invaluable tips to help you navigate the ever-evolving real estate landscape. Get ready to embark on a journey of discovery as we empower you with the tools and strategies to thrive in the competitive realm of property transactions. Tune in, stay informed, and elevate your real estate game with the J-Car Report. Well, hello, Matt. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to have Matt Fowler from Triangle MLS here for a second time.
Hey, Bonnie. Glad to be here.
Yes. Thank you. I'm glad we didn't scare you the first time, so you came back for a second round.
Of course.
So I just wanted to talk today and kind of go over everything. There's a lot of changes that have happened with TMLS. All exciting stuff, but I know that it's been a little more difficult than expected. So let's just, dive right in and kind of get into the elephant in the room and talk about all the changes that happened with TMLS, the front end of choice. I know that it's going to be a fantastic thing inevitably, but there were some hiccups along the way. So maybe just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, hiccups. Extreme turbulence, maybe, if we're using an airplane metaphor. I've used those a lot. And yeah, extreme turbulence. And just like my captain apologized for some extreme turbulence the other day, that's the worst I've ever experienced on an airplane. He didn't set out to fly through the choppy bits. Hopefully you guys don't, hold any more blame for me and my staff than I do for that poor captain, because he got knocked around up there too.
Yeah.
So I would like to explain a little bit what happened and why Paragon had such a hard. And that really, I think I'll make this super brief, but it starts last August when we had been talking to our colleagues at Black, the people that make Paragon, about our schedule. And we really did kind of three big things last year. It all got launched November 27th. But over the summer, we translated the whole database, as we've talked about before, to the national standards. I got an email on the way down here to Smithfield today from the real estate organization saying that we had passed the review. Our data is now at data level 2.0. So we submitted for 2.0, which is the very, very latest. Not many people are at 2.0. Paragon, TMLS, native are not at 2.0 yet. They're at the current 1.7.
And that's RESO for those who probably hear it more often.
Yeah, I'm really bad about these acronyms. And we published a glossary book about the acronyms. Bonnie,
it is the industry of acronyms, isn't it?
Gosh, it's a terrible way. Somebody asked me if I was in the military with all these acronyms. The RESO is the Real Estate Standards Organization. They publish a dictionary nationally of terms. I think an example we've been using lately, and when I say townhouse, you get a picture in your brain of the townhouse. And, the person next to you who works in Boston has a perhaps different picture.
Very different, yeah. I'm from Massachusetts, so I can picture that as well.
So I picked Boston, right, for a reason. And, they mean something different when they say townhouse, something very specific. So hundreds, cities have gotten together over the years. I know it sounds like fun. And we do this twice a year, get ready to go to Birmingham. And we sit around and we talk about, what does contingent actually mean?
Yeah.
What does townhouse actually mean? Is there a way we can define so that we can remove ambiguity, and that people who are moving from Boston, when they see townhouse, and they go look at the townhouse, they get the townhouse that they expected to see. It's not just a townhouse. It's what is the room definition? How does that work? So we spent a lot of time translating our database, the local term, and we published a new database November 20. In the meeting in August, when we're talking about that deadline, the National Sales Director, Lucy Fortier at Black Knight, is new to her job. I've known Lucy for a while. We haven't worked together directly. I've known Black Knight forever. And Lucy, in a meeting, she said, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable about hitting your deadline with the new Paragon Connect that we're about to release. We think that's going to be more like March or April, not September or October." And we said, gosh, that's not going to work for us. We've got to find a way to get our new database out. We want to offer FlexMLS. We want to offer Matrix. These guys are here to be ready.
And just to ask a question real quick, when you say the new Paragon, is it just an updated version or the less antiquated?
Yes, both of those things. It's Paragon Connect, which is already available on the dashboard and inside Paragon.
Yeah.
And you can see it's a very kind of mobile-focused user experience. And Black Knight intends to replace what we've been referring to as Paragon Classic, the Paragon that you're using today. They're going to replace that system with Paragon Connect. Still have to convert all the terms in Paragon Connect to the new dictionary. So that's the work that's left to be done.
Yeah.
That is about to be published in May. The current launch date is May 15, followed by a go-live date for the subscribers around the middle of July. So you'll be able to use Paragon Connect right in the middle of summer. That's just when they're releasing it. We aren't taking Paragon Classic down or doing anything with Paragon. So there will just simply be both on the dashboard.
Okay.
Say searches come over, contacts come over. But to finish that thought about Lucy's idea would map our new data back into the existing Paragon Classic platform. And she made a commitment to do that by November 27th. And we talked to them a lot about this. And you probably remember we were saying that this was going to be the least impact on the existing Paragon users because we weren't changing Paragon Classic. We were going to actually save it from some of the changes that were being made. Yeah. And we would introduce it more gradually. And I just met with Lucy in New York at the Inman meeting up there. Triangle was awarded an award at Inman for what they call the MLS Reinvented, where we're tracking with 18 changes that they see that the industry needs to make.
That's fantastic.
Kind of interesting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's nice to be recognized in the middle of this turbulence. Yeah. Right? So when I met with Lucy, we both, I don't know, had a mea culpa moment where we both will not do that again. Okay, so I was too eager last August to find a vector to my deadline. Right, that was a path to a solution for me, and everybody in my team grabbed onto that. So, okay, great, we're going to be ready. We're going to hit our deadline. We're going to get this out this year. Lucy felt that her team could make it, and in fairness, I think they probably got maybe 100 of 900 things done. So it's not like they didn't do it. Yeah. But the piece missing was and it's taken a lot. It's 90 days out right now. And it's taken a lot to get this a stable, something that's starting to look like stable. And we define that by being able to get back to everyone the same day. Yes. Who calls in. So right now we're on day before, 90 days out. Yeah. Right. So that was a lot of turbulence. Yeah. I can say, though, that over 12,000 listings have been added to the system since November 27th. Okay. Over 3,000 properties sold in December, thousands of properties sold in January, February. We're tracking about the numbers of year before last for sales. Yeah. So we're kind of looking about normal in terms of production. So the system absolutely is working. We have hundreds of new MLS members going since this time. And they're using the MLS that they chose, not the one that the MLS committee picked for. Exactly. If one of those systems were to go down, we have two more. And, Rapatoni, God bless him, was offline for 6 or 8 weeks last year. That could absolutely happen to us if we were in the situation that we were before November 27th, where we were just completely reliant on Black Knight and Paragon. Yes, yeah. I remember asking Alan Nielsen, our MLS vice president, if we could do something. And it was like a cartoon. Alan turned around at the same meeting and said, "Hey, Terry from Black Knight, can we do that?" And I was like, okay, well, Alan isn't. I should Terry because we're not capable of anything ourselves. Yes, yeah. We just have to, rely on the benevolence of Black Knight. We don't today. If a new feature comes out, but there was a new AI feature that just came out. If you've been waiting for a new kind of cool way to show photos to your buyers. Flex just came out with that a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Normally, I would just maybe forward that to Black Knight. Why? What has she done for me lately? But then they would delete it because they don't have to answer me until the contract renewal comes up. Yeah. Right. Now that's very different. We sent an email to all 15,000 subscribers. Hey, there's this cool thing out at Flex MLS now. And I don't know if that's going to motivate people, but I'm a recovering real estate appraiser. You'd be picking what software, your broker is using in Smithfield today to do their retail real estate business. How am I supposed to know that?
Yeah.
Right. So we've been presuming that we do know through the decision making of the MLS committee every 3 to 5 years. And this is the materially better way to give people more like it's not a vending machine. It's something that's choice.
Yeah.
And we've just announced that choice has been extended through the end of March. So you've got the whole rest of this month to be able to try Matrix. By the time this podcast comes out, the Matrix button will have been on the dashboard for a little while because it's coming out as we're talking. It's coming out in the morning. So you'll be able to use Matrix in One Home and their product, the Realist public records application. Will really prefer Realist over CRS. I think it depends on what county you really work in.
Yeah.
But your members should absolutely go log into Matrix, go to the Realist public records solution, go look at your own house.
Yeah.
Compare a current active that you have and see what does the public records interface look like from CRS and what does it look like in Realist. Realist has a rate plug integration already that we're contemplating putting in CRS, but it's already in Realist, and it lets you look at whether the person's mortgage is affordable and whether it's below current market rate. So if you get a lead from somebody and you're getting ready to go out and show that, do a listing presentation for them, would you like to know that they have an assumable 3% mortgage on their house? Good Lord, yes, you would.
Yeah,
I think that's going to impact your marketing, I imagine. So that's an integration that currently exists in the list. You got the rest of the month to just out, see if you like it. Those are big reasons why we did what we did, Bonnie, and Paragon had a lot to do to map the stuff back in to make Paragon work well. I think that most people judged whether this whole thing was a good idea or not, whether Paragon is like it was. Okay? So that's super unfortunate because we didn't really set out to make Paragon exactly like it was before. We've tried to make it as little things as possible, but our objective was to break the monopolistic over-reliance on a single vendor, and we did that.
Yeah.
Was to translate our database to the national standards that we can now contemplate sharing with big MLSs around us, like Bright and Canopy, that are MLS, translated to the national standards. We're now a candidate for building some sort of a regional I-95 corridor, East Atlantic coast kind of thing. Like we're at the table because we've done the hard work necessary to get our data to a point where it fits in the other platforms.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know that it has been difficult. I am coming from the operations side of TMLS. I know that you guys had some rough days, and change is hard. But I think that inevitably this, like you said, your captain went through the turbulence to get to the final destination.
Yeah. And I think it's fair. It's fair for people to expect ability, accuracy, and completeness from us. That's completely fair. And I think what we did, I talk about innovation a lot. The people that I think push back the most, put it that way, don't want innovation from me. Okay, they want reliability from me.
Yeah.
So the way they use the software, this doesn't mean to minimize it in any way, is they use it as a tool to get to closing, to complete the closing, to get paid. Right? It's a very basic thing.
Yeah.
But if you push 4 buttons in a row to produce a CMA that was exactly what you wanted, that you put in the folder, the closing that got your deal closed, if that took you 4 seconds because you've done it 8,000 times, making it 5 buttons or 3 buttons or putting them out of order or like having 5 ways to do it and you're supposed to now go learn 4 new ones because they're better in some way, it just means that you weren't able to do as many in a day. So those are competing things. What I'm saying is that we're going back to the place where you can pick the 4 buttons that you want. You can put them where you want them.
Yeah.
And I will never change them. Okay, this is a one-time thing.
Yeah.
We just did the conversion. That's a one-time thing. We've published our data in a way that the 4-button system can get to it, and I'll never take their action. We'll add other ones. And one day that company that you buy the 4 buttons from, Paragon Classic perhaps, is going to sunset Paragon Classic. And you'll have to learn at that moment the new one.
Yeah.
But I will, Matt from Triangle, will not be the one who done that to you.
Yes.
Okay, so we went through a lot of work to make sure Paragon's
Mm-hmm.
and that it will be there as long as Paragon leaves it. Mm-hmm. But that people who want to move on and use something, there's a new platform out of Manhattan called Perkwell. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely beautiful. It's the prettiest MLS I've seen in a long time. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very functional. It's up in a few different cities. And normally I would never even talk about it because they need to have done 40 cities before I'm comfortable relying on them for everything. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not relying on them for everything, and it's just an additional point, and maybe people want the new pretty one, mm-hmm. well, let's put that on the board and see if they do. Yeah. So I have a proposal from Perchwell that's I think we can do. Mm-hmm. There's another one from Remind Pro that's a really cool looking piece of software. Mm-hmm. I would never, frankly, trust either of them to hold our back-end data. Yeah. But I don't trust anyone for that. Like we have our own sovereign data set, Project Jordan, because it's a data lake. Mm-hmm. And that's where our real copyright is. Yeah. Like that's our own copy. Mm-hmm. All these companies could go away, and we would still be able to get back up and running. We have an authentic, and we're in real estate, so I can say fee simple ownership of that data. Yeah. It's not a lease fee because it belongs to somebody else. It's actually, and we own it in an authentic way that we didn't before. Yeah. Before us.
Well, yeah, again, I can see how great it is. And I think that it opens up, and I shouldn't say it's going to be great, but right now I really see the struggle that a lot of agents have had. I've had phone calls and that's been hard because it's one of those where you want to say it's going to get better, but that doesn't help them right now, and
I want to answer that directly because I have built these systems for a long time and they are complicated. This is my maybe 80th or 90th enterprise conversion when we've launched new software. And there is only one path to normality out of these projects. And I want everybody to know that we're doing these things so that when requests come in, when we get tickets coming in, those are sorted by how serious they are. We have a formal triage process where is it keeping someone from actually entering a listing or making a status change or joining? Are they like full blocked? Yeah. And those things are super high priority. Absolutely. And we focus on them we have 28 staff people, and 11 or 12 of those are specifically designated for member services. So they're either on those phones or they're on the tickets or they're doing research for those people to fill in the tickets. And our measure is to, as we were saying earlier, to return all the same. And we got up to 5 days, even using overflow, sending people with big vendor-related issues out to vendors, we were still flat. Over the holidays, we had people out. People out with COVID. There were a few days where we had one person on the help desk. We had scheduled 6, but because of travel, vacation, holidays again, and a lot of sickness over that period, we were definitely understaffed. And we got to a point where we don't want to ever be with member services. Yeah. So we have, as of this morning, I talked to Kate. We were working on tickets on Sunday, and we feel like we're at the end of it. Yeah. There are still things happening. If you look at status.trianglemls.com, that's regularly updated, and there are messages that come out from columns regularly to talk about where we are. Big things right now are Zillow had a data scramble Friday or so, and there were missing listings and missing photos. They fixed it over the weekend, and we still don't really know what happened. Yeah. Some documents are still not available in FlexMLS that were in Paragon. They were supposed to have backfilled all of them, and there are definitely missing photos and documents. So production reports only show correctly in Flex or in FlexMLS if you haven't moved companies. If you've moved companies, your production is likely missing. So days on market in the Flex system has a slightly different calculation regarding coming soon. And some of those are out of sync. Agent notes are located in HomeSpotter. So you just a word at the end of it. And if you don't know there's more and there's critical agent information at the end of those notes and HomeSpotter is what you rely on, then you may show up at a property and not know things you should know. So those are all examples of things that we're working on. And we're working on these things from a perspective of audit.
Yeah.
So that's really the message I wanted to leave with the JCAR subscribers today, is that we've developed a way to know when we're done. Right. So this can't just be, as you said, we're working on it as hard as we can. We're going to be done with it when we get done with it. That's a very frustrating.
Yeah.
So in order to put some kind of bookends on this, we defined what finished. So if you can imagine a spreadsheet, columns and rows, pretty straightforward. The first column is the listing management. And the first cell in that, cell A1, is the first field when you go enter a listing. I think it's a listing. You have to say what company you are loading this listing, then the person, and then there's some other stuff. But there's like, I don't know, there's 300 fields if you just go down A1 to A whatever. And they exist on some level in the listing management. And they have a status date and time associated with it. So like, when is it? Each one of them has a date it was updated. There are required ones, and then there's not required. There are RESO standard fields and RESO local fields. So what we've done is we've gone through, we've completed the audit, where we look at column B, paragraph, and we say, okay, does the listing brokerage ID, the first one, exist in Paragon? Is it the same? Is it updated at the same timestamp as the other one? So has it gotten out of date? Is it a number in the listing management system? Is it also in if the date is the date? Does the data type match? So we've gone through column B is Paragon. You see where this is going. Matrix, D is FlexMLS, HomeSpotter, Realtor.com. And then we add sites based on the traffic. Zillow's out there because so many people consume our listing data through that platform. I want to know, before people tell me, if hot tub has been translated in ground pool on Zillow. Imagine the complexity of it. 100 fields with all of these rules. And we used to just have to compare it to Paragon.
Yes.
That was pretty easy. We only change it every now and then. Now we've got all these other ones. We always had all those ones. We just haven't had Matrix and Flex, but we've had all the IDX.
Absolutely.
So that's already been a thing. The data has never been 100% the same on every field across every platform. But now we're auditing it. And if you can imagine, green in that field means it's up to date and it Yellow means something wrong. Reds mean it's timed out. Something broken. So our goal is to get that imaginary spreadsheet full green. And we've got some yellows on there right now. And occasionally things that were green go yellow because the document sync process right now in Paragon gets clogged up. And it's every 8 minutes, and then it's every 9 minutes, and then it's an hour. And then they have to flush it and catch up again. But our tool will tell us that. Right now it's manual. We have a new programmer that started on the 12th that's helping us take this fully automated. So eventually we'll see it at status.triangle.com, and our vendors can go out and look and see how their own data, like you'll be able to go find your IDX provider and see if they're all green.
That's interesting. Wow. I didn't realize that there's so many different aspects of it that you just don't realize until you sit down and have a conversation, and then you're like, I need you to go 5 steps back because you lost me. But this I understand. And I think it's great that you're able to do that audit. Again, it just takes time. Like you said, there's still some yellow, and hoping there's no red at this point. And hopefully it will be.
Documents turned red the other day because they stopped moving from the core system out to Paragon. But the bottom line is, Bonnie, about these different platforms, we have exposed some weaknesses in these competing platforms that's super uncomfortable because they weren't super apparent before. But when you put them right next to each other, some things pop out. And I'm not here to sell Matrix or Paragon or FlexMLS, but I am in a position where I need to tell you which one I would use. Okay, if I was looking at performance, I said I was a recovering appraiser. Let's say I'm an appraiser. The data should be the same. Comps are the same across. Because the FlexMLS is using the API, that's the most current version of the data, and because they built a listing management, which includes all the RESO fields, they're going to be the most up to date and the most similar to the way the listing was entered into the system. So until Matrix and Paragon move completely over to the faster API as a data source, Flex is going to outrun them on the alerts.
Yeah.
Okay, so that as of today, that's what I've done.
Yeah.
By the end of May, we're going to have the new API connected Paragon Connect system, and it should be as fast as the Flex one.
Yeah.
So if you're using Paragon right now and you're satisfied with the timeliness of it, I wouldn't move. I would wait until Paragon Connect came out. But if timeliness of those alerts is really important, if it irritates you that some of the national portals beat the platform that you're using for alerts, that's not going to get better until these systems that are using the old batch method of updating their data move over to the API.
Yeah.
So that's not going to change. I would use TMLS if it were me today. And I would absolutely go familiarize myself with Matrix and Realist and see if you like those platforms. Matrix is still using the old data platform, at least for right now. So it's going to be about as fast in terms of getting the alerts out as Paragon.
Wow. So before we move on to, because I have a couple other things that we want to discuss today, but before we move on, what would you say, because there still are some who are frustrated, and I think that they are looking for reciprocity from what had happened to them, over the time. What do you say to those folks? Because we can understand that some things mess with how they run their business, and that is, for some that, was unacceptable. And so what do you say to them to let them know that, to still keep the faith in TMLS and that there is...
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of requests basically to just make it work. Okay, I've gotten a few requests, not many, who have said, look, you need to rebate second quarter something or first quarter.
Yeah.
I think there are people who would love a refund of some sort of a month or something. I think most people just want to work. So the board, this is obviously not Matt's decision, but the board has heard these requests at the January and February board meeting. We've discussed them. At present, there hasn't been a motion or any action taken to do anything financially. We did pass a new rule that was temporary that allowed people who listed properties from November 20th for several weeks after that to relist it if they didn't get a full new listing bout on the portals because the photos were wrong or because the status was wrong. Then, we can't pull the clock back, but we can just sort of pretend that didn't happen. And we, manually go in and delete those old listings, let them relist one so days on market is correct, and they get that full market bounce. We've done that, and I think there were a few dozen people who took us up on that. If we can think of other ways to make it better, we are focused on doing those things. Those are definitely within our capacity to do without a board action. I would say at this point, 90-something days out, I probably don't see them taking a move to issue any kind of rebate. At this point, we're really focused on making the system as fast as possible, getting that data as accurate and complete as we can. We do have a lot of work to do in 2024 that doesn't need to get pushed off. We have a new brand launch that we've been talking about. All of our lawyers and consultants, everybody else is telling us to get out in front of the public relations problem that we have in the industry and to tell the consumer about the value of the MLS and frankly to tell the subscribers about it. During this conversion, I think we both kind of learned a lot about what people do and don't about what Triangle is. Triangle isn't Paragon. Those are different things. And I don't, I'm not, you and I kind of chuckle about that because this isn't such inside baseball stuff for us. But I think your average person, Paragon hasn't been changed in 9.5 years, 10 years in October.
So it's a long time of doing the same thing.
Average realtor, that hasn't changed at all over that period of time. So it's completely fair for you to think that is Triangle. But, it's not. It's just one of the three companies. I would argue it's the least innovative of the three. They're going to smack me for that. But, CoreLogic is the biggest. FBS has got the best API and back end. They certainly invested the most in it. And Paragon was just sold to the company that owns the New York Stock Exchange. It's a really interesting company, Intercontinental Exchange. it's a fascinating company. But I think it's fair to say that they're focused on a lot of stuff. Whereas FBS, for example, makes one product, really.
Yeah.
They're a small employee-owned organization based in Fargo, North Dakota, and they're just materially different than the big CoreLogic or the big Black Knight.
Gotcha. I think that opening it up to those three really just has given, not only giving people the option to choose which one they like, but also to see how different they are, and also bring that understanding that TMLS is not Paragon. TMLS, that's just the system. That's just, what you're using to input the data. But, it's along that of not really understanding everything not even behind the scenes, but just the mapping of it. For example, when you brought on Flex, that did not mean that you were data sharing with North Carolina Regional MLS.
Sure.
Because everybody used to call Regional MLS Flex.
Right.
And so that I'm hoping that this also brings that understanding of the separation, and the difference, and maybe down the line, some sort of connection between the two. But right now there isn't that one. And so I'm hoping
we'd love to do some data sharing with Regional. But you're exactly right, Monty. The idea that just because it's Flex means that the data is going to be in there, that just really kind of maybe reveals a basic lack of knowledge of how the industry works.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. So anyways, all right, well, moving on, I'd like to say to happier topics, but interesting to say the least. So would you want to talk a little bit about the litigation going on and how, we all know that it's going to be a major impact to the industry. If you want to kind of talk about how TMLS could possibly be impacted by that.
Sure, yeah. We do a lot of strategic planning, Bonnie, and part of strategic planning is to talk about scenarios, what might happen. I was a CEO for 20 years before starting as the director at Triangle, and that's baked into what my boards always expected me to do. There'd be some news story about something, and happening in the New York Times a lot lately for us. But you get these. One of your brokers says Chicken Little, sky's falling, New York Times article today.
Yeah.
It'll never be the same. Whatever. Give me your reaction. And I think that my takeaway really is to focus back on the things and the things that we as executives, you and I, can do locally. And as important as those things are, we can't touch much of it. We do have really close relationships with some national advisors. We have lawyers that used to work for the DOJ. We have you talked about lawyers, but you did ask about the litigation. We have lawyers that work for us who also work for dozens of other MLSs. So we pool that knowledge. And I hope people are listening to this that are involved in the litigation. And as we were just discussing before we pushed the record button, what we're really focused on primarily is doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And we mean for consumers. Okay, so we want consumers to know that our network is the fairest in the world for listing and finding a property for sale. That there are no demographics. We don't know where you're from, your cultural orientation, any of your orientations. You find the house that you like, and if you've got the money, this is America. You put the button, and it's yours.
Yeah.
And my job is about removing friction in that environment, building transparency in that environment, and making sure that we're doing things like counting. Marketing correctly, so that when a property is made active for some, it's made active for all. Okay, so that's a network thing that we can decide. There's a lot of controversy around that. People want to do different things, but we're focused on that consumer. And I want everybody listening to know that they're very much in the room when we're doing that strategic planning.
Yeah.
And there's a lack of transparency around who pays what in the mortgage or in the real estate transaction. I think our network should be focused on increasing that.
Absolutely.
And helping the consumer understand the value that these professionals are actually bringing to the table, because it's considerable. And I've been saying for a long time that I think the monies that are paid in the transaction today aren't paid because they're worth. They're paid because they're worth it.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I feel like we can prove that.
Mm-hmm. But as you kept saying, transparency, just let that be known. Explain to your client exactly what's happening. You know,
truly have nothing to hide.
Yeah, exactly. Because a realtor is worth every single penny, but you just got to let them know that where those pennies are going and who they're coming from.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I've talked to a bunch of realtors who are doing this now, going back and looking at their commission income and what did they put into it, and they're thinking, well, how much do I make an hour?
Yeah, no, I actually have. Right? I have a realtor, and I can't wait to put this data out. But I do have somebody close to JCAR who is working on a couple transactions and just documenting, so we can see what they make at the end, what cut of the check comes to them, and hourly. And she said, the more I go into it, the more I'm a little nervous about what's going to come back. And I think that, again, let the consumers know that, let the clients know that. But that's a whole other topic. We're on MLS now.
What levers can the MLS pull to try and address these things? Right? And there are not many, but we are launching a consumer portal this year that will have a lot of consumer protection information on it. We have an integration with down payment resources, a way to do a simple test for the buyer. When they log into the site, we can ask them a few basic questions. Are you a first responder? Is your income in this range? And then we can actually flag properties that. So that's in the same way we were talking about flagging properties in the mortgage. We're flagging properties that would be more affordable, environment.
So talk about this consumer portal, so what exactly is that going to be for them? If they are searching homes, is it going to be where they can go and put in, I'm looking for this style house, this many bedrooms, and it pops up everything in TMLS for them?
Yeah, it's a local property search site like a realtor.com or RPR.
Okay.
Not RPR.
I didn't want to compare it to those because I didn't know if that would be. But that's what I was thinking. But
it's like IDX without IDX.
Yeah.
So instead of removing all the brands like you would in IDX, you just leave them. There are rules around this that you can find out more about at fairdisplay.org. That's a website that was put together by the Realty Alliance years ago. That's still quite pertinent. And it specifies rights that the brokers asserted in the Broker's Bill of Rights. It was published in 2013. Just a bunch of stuff saying, yes, you can take my listings out of the MLS, but if you're going to do that, you can't charge me for a lead on my own listing. You can't remove my name from it. The IDX rule says you can't do that anyway, but the Broker Bill of Rights is saying thou shalt not, or I'll come after you. So there's some specific things that say that my listing, my lead is basically what it means. So what we're doing with the consumer portal is we're going to be basically an additional advertising portal for the full inventory at Triangle. And if someone chooses your listing to ask more information about it, that lead goes to your CRM directly through one of our APIs or other action that might be directed by your broker. So the broker owns the intellectual property. So when the lead comes in, the broker determines what happens to them, including automatically drop this in Boomtown or top producer. So that's built into our portal.
Wow.
And if somebody goes to that website and they're a buyer and they say, you know what, Bonnie's the listing agent. Or I see Bonnie's name in the roster. I just scanned a QR code from Bonnie's business card or clicked on a link in Bonnie's email signature that logs me into the new Triangle Consumer Portal and connects me to Bonnie. So the buyer can pick the person that they want to communicate with. And if they subsequently ask a question about 10 properties, Bonnie gets 10 inbounds instead of the person now having 10 CRMs pointed at them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? No one wants that. So the realtor's not want that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So we let you pick something. And then the buyer's responsibility is going to be to just interrupt that process with the QR code or put it on your billboard. Saying, sign up with me at trianglemls.com. And it's a first come, first serve thing, but you can have an alias. So it's trianglemls.com/Bonnie. And if you go claim that when it comes out in sometime in May, then that's yours, or it's, Bonnie J. Carr or whatever you do. That thing is the name of your basically business card on a new portal.
Mm-hmm.
And you can point people to that. It's got your current listings. It's got your recent sales.
Mm-hmm.
It's got your upcoming open houses, ways to contact you,
mm-hmm.
and a way that says make this person that permanently connects that person to you until they go back and push what we refer to as the divorce button.
Yeah. You always have to have one of those,
the point is they can connect to the person in the same way that they can connect to a listing for the listing brokerage. So this is for buyer reps or everybody in the system, as well as those people who are fortunate.
That's fantastic. That'll be a great benefit. And just to clarify, this was an example. Bonnie does not sell homes. Bonnie is not going to be on any billboards.
Well, that's an important thing, Bonnie, because people talk about this competition. And, I would respect that the internet hasn't worked like that since the 90s.
Yeah.
You don't get fewer clicks per site if you add a site. What we're talking about here is building a virtuous cycle of link sharing, where we're going to go out into the marketplace and we're going to spend, the current budget is 6 figures or more to promote this new site next year. It'll be a lot. And our membership numbers have done that really well. So we're going to be able to fund that, I think, fully. And people will see the new brand around the Triangle area. Yeah. And sellers will start saying, how do I get my site on this brand that I see all the time? That's going to start, I told my board, this is a 60-month project. So this isn't quick. Yeah. But over a period of time, we're going to be able to build a brand, hopefully, that means homeownership, that means accessibility, that means transparency, that means professionalism to people in the Triangle. What happens, we're talking about litigation, what happens in Chicago or even Charlotte is not something that we have a lot of control over. Yeah. But we can control what's going on in the Triangle. We can build those consumer-friendly brands. Like, we're not mimicking something. We've been doing this for years and years, where anybody can come and post a property and not have a steering happening. I think if you go to England, you go to France, you go to Japan and look at what the real estate market is like. It's a broker-to-broker situation. Yeah. And we just don't really understand how good we have it when the largest market share in the Triangle, the last time I looked, was in the teens. Yeah. So this is a very kind of competitive, open market for people to find their house.
That's fantastic. Now, are there a lot of other MLSs who have done this, or is this kind of a?
It's an original, but not. It's a progressive and not original idea. Is what I meant to say. There are several that have done that. So the most, I guess, prominent one is NorthstarMLS.com. That's the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area, and my buddy Tim Dane runs that MLS, and they have exactly the same choices that we do. Flex, Matrix, and Paragon. And they launched it about a year before we did. There are others. Miami does something like this. California Regional has this. Maris has something like this. And there are others. But Tim, when I recently asked him, like, what's your year out? What's going on? What's your biggest pain point? And he immediately said, it's portals of beating the MLS platform on the alerts. Like he said, I've got 5 emails a week about it, probably people saying, why does, and I won't name them, well, if I put the 2 phones on the table and one's got, my MLS vendor's mobile app and one has large national portal whose name rhymes with pillows right next to it, that means zillions of pillows. Did you ever hear that? That's where Zillow came from. Really? Zillions of pillows. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, how about that? Little Easter egg for you. But if you put 2 right next to each other, and you load a listing and you say, okay, everybody push the button back at the office, let's see. It's super irritating that the one that you subscribe to, that's your like professional, comes in the way after the other. Yeah, yeah. And that's what I meant by exposing the undersides of the platforms. That one has spent a lot of money on their API. And making sure that they're ingesting data from MLSs that have APIs. That's the application programming interface, and it's how modern programs get data between systems. And they're able, by demonstration, go look to get that alert out really fast. And if you're waiting for 10 minutes to go by and then you process that, then you're going to get them every 10 minutes. But if the API is hitting it every few seconds or whatever, then one's materially faster than the other. Yeah. And I want you to understand out there, dear listeners, Triangle had exactly nothing at all to do with Mm-hmm. Okay, like we published it on the website through this API thing, and everybody has the same access to it that anyone else using the API. So during just after New Year's, as I recall, I got a whole bunch of emails from a group of people who are convinced that I'm getting paid by Zillow because Zillow's first. Like they tested it 20 times. Zillow's always first. We'll test it another 200 times because they're going to still be until someone else is using the API. Yeah. So Redfin is using the API. A bunch of people, a lot of IDX vendors are using it. If yours isn't, okay, and you should ask, call your vendor and say, are you using the API for triangle data, or are you using the RETS system? API and the other one's RET. And just ask them. Come call and ask them. And if they're still using RETS, then they're slow. Yeah. And they need to invest in the new. And they will not beat out anybody that is using the API. They can't. It's physically impossible to do that. You can learn more about the API at sparkplatform.com. That is FBS's homepage for the Spark API. Of course, data feeds at trianglemls.com is your trusted access to our data people. We have 2 people full-time in that department, just managing the downstream data from Triangle. Wow, well, that's really exciting. I can't wait to see that come out, and I think that'll make leaps and bounds. Well, this was excellent. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that all the listeners, kind of have another view of how everything's working. And I know that JCAR really appreciates TMLS and all of the forward thinking that you have brought to the table. So anything else before we head on out? No, I guess your last question here was, what can you expect to see from Triangle over the next year? I hope you can expect to see fewer changes. How about that? So I like it. I think you can expect to see more choices on the dashboard. We're just really focused for the rest of the year in making sure that the implementations that we have done are all smooth. That spreadsheet we were talking about has greens all over it. That the audit is complete and maintains that. I think you can expect to see some new MLS front-end options. Probably this summer, in the second half of the year. We have a new statistics platform that's about to be launched. InfoSparks has been our statistics for a long time. They are great, but there's a new independent company based in Reno that does nothing but MLS statistics. And they've got a new platform. It's called Domus Analytics. And you'll first see it on the dashboard. It's going to be on the consumer portal as well. But there are actually 5 different dashboards for statistics. 3 of them are member-facing only. And there's a really cool pricing aid that looks sort of like the old pricing metrics that used to be on the Paragon ad listing form. That was kind of a scatter plot. Where does the thing fall? And that we lost that when we moved to the listing management system. Yeah. We're getting it back with the Domus pricing tool. So watch for that coming up. Comms, our communication team is really fantastic. We have Andrea back from maternity leave, thank goodness. And you'll hear a lot from that group. So watch our social channels. We're using LinkedIn and Twitter primarily to talk to members. You've had a podcast out as well for a little bit. We have a great podcast. If you go to Triangle MLS on YouTube, you'll get all of our shorts and podcasts, and we're doing one of those a week. That's great. Yeah, including a new one coming out from CoreLogic that we just finished, and another new one from FlexMLS, where we talk about FlexMLS's new broker management tools. So if you have a website and you're currently using the old Triangle frame, there's a replacement for those. Way, way better. There are about 800 people still using those. There's just an enormous upgrade. And if you would like to leave frames behind and implement something that actually will show up on search engines, frames are completely invisible, will not show up if you're using frames. May not show up if you're not, but you definitely won't if you're using frames. They have a WordPress plugin, which is a premium. You have to buy that from them, but it's not very expensive. And it allows you to ingest all of the Triangle data directly into your own domain. So Bonnie doesn't sell real estate, but notbonnie.com would let you put the whole Triangle property search on your own domain. And it's crawlable. So you would get just as much credit from Google as our. Oh, wow. Yeah. So that's available through broker services at products, FlexMLS products, I think. I won't state the domain name. I can't remember.
Wow, that's awesome. Real quick, before we head out, we were talking prior, we were just having a lockbox discussion, the fun topics in the industry, and you were talking about there is a way to find data on opens, but it's a little hard to search. Can you kind of walk me through where we would find that?
Yeah, in the central lock dashboard, which I wish I knew more about, we will refer our questions back to Christy, who is our lockbox specialist.
Yes.
But there is a dashboard if you're using electronic access control for your listings, and you should for a lot of reasons, for safety and
for data,
granularity. Yeah, just the logging we're talking about. You can go and find out globally how many opens there have been, in the world today versus your company versus your own. You can look at how many opens there have been in a price bracket. And take that information back to your seller when you're doing things like figuring out whether you should change the price on the property. Do we see evidence of increased demand or decrease? That's in the central lock dashboard.
Yeah. And do you know what do you know what it's called, or
no,
it's probably...
I can tell you it's one of the things that Central Lock has published an API, again with the APIs, so I can get to that data and pull it out and put it on the Triangle dashboard. So you wouldn't have to go look for it where it lives in Central Lock. We have to make a decision about whether to extend our relationship with Central Lock, maybe look at Supra, look at Master Lock or some of the other candidates that are in the business now. That's an active project of the Stakeholder Advisory Council. We hope to have that work wrapped up in summertime, August-ish. And part of the criteria that we have is how visible are the usage analytics so that we can drive adoption. Currently, globally, I think our adoption is less than 20%. So I'd love to know what the members think. We'll be doing a survey later. But if it's less than 20%, then that means that you would run into an electronic lockbox on a property about every sixth listing that you run into. And if that feels about right, then that's a very low level of adoption. And we really need to stop and think about whether we need to really work on building that up or whether we need to do it at all if there's that little demand.
Yeah. So members, keep an eye out for a survey. So
absolutely. There's a few surveys coming out.
Yeah. So definitely the more information you can put together, the better the product can be. So, well, listen, Matt, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and speak with us. And you will actually be back here in person for the general membership meeting on March 19th, Tuesday it's going to be at the Johnston County Building Industry Association. And this will be kind of a discussion from TMLS and then an open forum where people can come and ask questions. And we're really looking forward to that. So again, I thank you for your time and we will talk soon.
Thanks, Bonnie. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the JCAR Report, your go-to podcast for all things real estate. We hope you found our discussion insightful and valuable in your real estate endeavors. Remember, knowledge is power in the world of property. Stay informed, stay curious, and never stop exploring the ever-evolving landscape of real estate. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the JCAR Report and never miss an update. And don't forget to leave us a review or share a podcast with others who might find it helpful. As always, stay connected with us on social media where we share additional tips, insights, and behind-the-scenes content. And if you have any questions or suggestions for future topics, we'd love to hear them from you. Thank you for being a part of the JCAR Report community. Until next time, and remember, the world of real estate is full of opportunities, and we're here to help you seize them.